7 out of 10 people are going to need long-term care at some point in their lives. And for a married couple, the odds that at least one spouse is going to experience a care event is even higher. Which means for most families watching this is not a maybe. It is a when. And in Hawaii, where care costs run 30 or 40% above national averages, it is also one of the single biggest financial risks to an otherwise solid retirement plan. Not the market, not inflation, not sequence of return risks, a care event that arrives without warning, that most families have no real plan for. And today I hope to change that for at least one person out there. I'm going to show you what long-term care actually costs in Hawaii. While some of the safety nets that some people assume exist are not quite what they think, and how to make a conscious, intentional decision about this risk before it makes the decision for you. So quick intro before we get into it. My name is Ethan Ho. I'm a certified financial planner and founder of Claw Capital here in Hawaii. I've spent over a decade doing financial planning with high earners and families navigating major transitions in Hawaii. Long-term care planning is one of those conversations that comes up in almost any serious retirement plan. And it's consistently a topic that people wish they had actually addressed sooner. And real quick, if you guys find this content useful, hit subscribe so you can follow along. I put out Hawaii-specific financial planning content regularly, and I'm trying to make it worth your time. All right, let's get into it. Let me start with the numbers because they are more significant than many people expect. According to the most recent Genworth Cost of Care survey, Hawaii long-term care costs have increased year over year and now exceed national averages. A private room in a nursing home in Hawaii runs about $13,000 a month. Assisted living averages around $9,000 a month. And in-home care for someone who needs help with daily living activities runs roughly $6,000 a month for part-time care. And to put that into perspective, the national average for a private nursing home room is about $10,000 a month. Hawaii is roughly 30 to 40% above that. And these numbers, they're not staying flat. Hawaii's assisted living care costs increased almost 74% between 2021 and 2024. Someone in their mid-40s today planning for a care event 20 or 30 or 40 years out is not planning for $13,000 a month. They are planning for a number that could be significantly higher. So let me show you what duration is, these numbers. I was recently in a conversation with someone whose parent was in a care facility for 2 years already, and they are going strong. And in that same conversation, they referenced somebody else that they knew whose parent has been in care for 7 years. 7 years at over $13,000 a month. That's over $1 million for a single care event. And the family in that conversation has already had to sell the family home to cover costs. And with years of care potentially ahead, the proceeds from that sale may not be fast. The asset that was supposed to stay in the family, the home that represented decades of work, being spent down on care that could have been planned for. So here's some important context. So a lot of retirees in Hawaii are currently getting through retirement on a pension, Social Security, and a paid off home. When a care event happens in that generation, the family absorbs it. Someone steps back from work, someone moves in, the family figures it out. And in Hawaii, where the cultural expectation of caring for parents runs deep, that has been the default for a long time. But here's what it actually costs the generation doing the caregiving. Adult children who become primary caregivers often reduce their working hours or leave the workforce entirely. And that has compounding effects. Fewer years of retirement contributions, lower Social Security credits, career momentum that is extremely hard to rebuild. The love is real, the sacrifice is real, and so is the financial cost that rarely shows up in anyone's plan. And for somebody in their 40s right now trying to save for their own retirement, put their kids through school, and build real financial freedom here in Hawaii, absorbing a parent's care costs can directly compete with all of those goals. This is not a hypothetical. This is a conversation I'm having with clients right now. And so I want to add the Hawaii specific layer that makes this even more complicated. For many Hawaii families, real estate is the largest asset that they own. Sometimes it's most of what they own, and real estate is not a liquid asset. And when a long-term care event hits and money needs to move quickly, families often have to access that real estate value through a reverse mortgage, a HELOC, or an outright sale. A HELOC or a reverse mortgage may keep the property, but it adds complexity. And of course, they can put the home at risk if the situation becomes unmanageable over time. A sale may solve the immediate cash problem, but the home is gone, along with its tax advantages. The asset that was supposed to stay in the family, the property that represents decades of work, the place that had meaning beyond its dollar value, gone to pay for care that could have been planned for. That is the story playing out right now for the family I mentioned at the start, and it's not rare. And before I go further, I want to address one of the things that comes up often, but it's government subsidies or Medicaid. And here's the honest answer. For the person watching this video, Medicaid is probably not a real option. In Hawaii, to qualify for Medicaid, you need to be an elderly individual with assets at or under $2,000. $2,000. That means spending down literally everything you built before Medicaid steps in. So for someone who has a paid off home, a portfolio, a plan they've been working towards and building for decades, Medicaid's not a real strategy. It is what happens when there is no strategy. So let's talk about what your actual option about. Because here's the truth about long-term care risk. You are going to land in one of the 4 places, whether you choose it intentionally or not. Option 1 is self-insure. You have enough assets for a long-term care event, even a significant one, to not derail your retirement. For this to be a real plan and not just an assumption, you need to have done the math honestly. What does a 2-year event cost? What does a 5-year event cost? What does a 7-year event cost? What does 2 sequential events cost for a married couple? Because for a couple, the risk is not just 1 event, it's potentially 2. Then the healthy spouse often becomes the primary caregiver first, which has its own health and financial consequences. Self-insuring is a legitimate choice if the assets are truly there. It requires honest math and not just some hopeful assumptions. Option 2 is do nothing and hope. This is where most people actually land, and it's not because they chose it, it's because they didn't make a different choice. A long-term care event, it doesn't ask if you're ready. Option 3 is transfer the risk. Buy a long-term care policy or some hybrid product. Traditional long-term care insurance pays a benefit when you need qualifying care. It transfers the financial risk to the insurance company in exchange for a premium. And some people avoid it because the use it or lose it concern. If you never need care, the premiums feel wasted. So there are hybrid products that exist for exactly that reason. Life insurance or annuities with long-term care riders that provide a death benefit if care is never needed. Neither is right for everyone, but understanding this is how you make a real choice. So option 4 is rely on family. This is a legitimate choice for many cultures, and especially in Hawaii where family obligations run deep. Just make it consciously with eyes open to what it costs for the people that you love most. Any of these 4 options can be your right answer depending on your situation, but I think the wrong answer is just never thinking about it at all. So let me be clear about who long-term care insurance is actually designed for, because I don't think it's for everyone. If you have very limited assets, the premium may not be the best use of your dollars. If you are genuinely wealthy enough to absorb a multi-year care event without meaningfully disrupting your retirement or financial position, then self-insuring may make sense. The sweet spot is someone who's built a solid retirement, a real plan, a portfolio they've worked hard for, a lifestyle that they are looking forward to, and a long-term care event could genuinely derail it all. That person has the most to protect, and insurance is exactly what it's designed for. Transfer the risk, protect what you've built. Give yourself and your family permission to fully enjoy retirement without holding back a reserve for something that may or may not come. So let me tell you about my own parents. They are in a position where a lot of people would consider comfortable. Fixed income that covers their lifestyle and a meaningful amount of assets that they've spent decades building. They could self-insure a long-term care event. The math works. But they chose not to. They purchased the long-term care policy. And the reasoning was simple. They'd rather lose a little in premiums to protect a lot in the event that something happens. The policy gives them permission to actually spend and enjoy what they've built, instead of holding it back as a reserve for a care event that may or may not come. And if something does happen, the policy pays first. The assets that they intended to leave behind stay intact. And for a couple, they also plan for the possibility of 2 events, not just 1. And in my opinion, that is the right use of insurance. Not fear, not pessimism, just a smart transfer of a real risk so the plan that they built actually does what it was meant to do. So here's the thing about long-term care insurance that most people don't realize until it's too late. You have to be healthy enough to qualify for it. And I think the best time to purchase it is in your mid-40s to mid-50s, when you are healthy, when the premiums are still manageable, and when underwriting is straightforward. Because once health issues emerge, and they usually emerge quietly before anyone notices, your options change quickly. Diagnosis, a medication, a condition that seems minor, many of those can make coverage more expensive or in some cases just unavailable. The person watching this right now could very well be sitting in that window, and that window does not announce when it closes. Let me bring this back to where we started. 7 out of 10 people are going to need care, and for a couple, the odds are even higher. In Hawaii, that care costs more than almost anywhere else in the country. And those costs, they keep on climbing. The family selling the home, the parent entering year 3 of a potentially 7-year care stay, the adult child trying to fund their retirement, their child's education, while absorbing care costs of their parents that were never planned for. None of it happened because of bad investing or bad luck. It happened because a decision was never made. Long-term care planning, it's not about imagining the worst. It's about protecting everything that you've built so that the people you love inherit what you intended. Not a depleted estate, not a family that sacrificed their own future to cover costs that could have been planned for. What you've built here in Hawaii is worth protecting. If you found this useful, hit subscribe. I'm going to continue to put out Hawaii-specific financial planning content, and I want to make sure you see it when it comes out. And if you want to have the honest conversation whether long-term care planning belongs in your financial picture and what that could actually look like for your specific situation, that is exactly the type of conversation we have at Law Capital Partners. It's not a sales conversation to buy a product, it is a planning conversation. Long-term care may or may not be the right move for you, but I believe you deserve to know which one it is before the decision gets made for you. Head to clawcapitalpartners.com, schedule a discovery call. We can take a real look at where you are and what protecting your plan actually looks like. See you guys in the next one.